In a land not far from where the sun rises, there is a tale that mothers tell their children to keep them close to home. A tale of a forgotten village. A village buried not in time, but in the memories wiped away, leaving nothing but whispers. This, my friend, is the story of Ravendale. It was said to have been a thriving settlement, surrounded by lush green hills and vibrant wildflowers, a place where laughter echoed and people danced under the moonlight. Yet today, it's as if Ravendale never existed. Maps don't mark its location. Historians refuse to speak of it, and even the wind hesitates to whisper its name. But why? What happened there that night that turned joy into silence? Our story begins with Eleanor, a young historian obsessed with uncovering the truth. Eleanor had come across a mention of the town in an old diary hidden deep in her grandmother's attic. It belonged to a man named Arthur Grayson, who wrote about visiting Ravendale in the summer of 1923. The detail in his entries was chilling. He called it the most peculiar village he had ever seen, a place where shadows seemed to move on their own and stars aligned unnaturally above it. Intrigued and determined, Eleanor packed her belongings, armed herself with cameras, flashlights, and old maps, and set out on a journey. She combed through historical archives, spoke with eccentric locals who muttered nonsense about curses, and drove through endless dirt roads leading to nowhere. Finally, she stumbled upon a faint trace, a crumbled signpost half buried in the earth that read, "Welcome to Ravendale." The air grew colder as she approached what remained of the supposed village. Dense fog surrounded the place, and the ground felt oddly sponge-like beneath her boots. Eleanor found dilapidated shacks, overgrown cobblestone paths, and an eerie silence punctuated only by the rustling of leaves. She set up her equipment to document everything. At dusk, something extraordinary happened. She heard faint laughter and music coming from the distant woods. She followed the sound, only to find an open clearing with skeletal remains of what looked less like a bonfire. Goosebumps ran down her spine as she noticed the ground in the clearing seemed freshly disturbed, as if something had been unearthed just recently. And then she saw it, a faint glow hovering above the ground, flickering like a ghostly flame. It beckoned her, and against her better judgment, Eleanor stepped closer. Suddenly, the night came alive. What had once been an empty clearing transformed before her very eyes. The glow expanded, revealing the outlines of cottages, market stalls, and townsfolk, laughing and engaging in revelries. It was Ravendale, a ghostly projection of the once thriving village, frozen in the moment it disappeared. Eleanor could barely breathe as she observed from the shadows, her camera recording every second. But the euphoria of her discovery was short-lived. Without warning, the laughter ceased, and everyone in the projected scene turned their heads in unison, looking directly at Eleanor. Their eyes were hollow, an abyss of nothingness, and their faces twisted into expressions of unspeakable horror. Shadows began to slither toward her like living tendrils, the laughter from the invisible spectators turning into macabre howling. Knocking over her equipment, she ran like never before, the forgotten village seemingly alive and angry with her intrusion. Eleanor escaped, barely making it back to her car. But when she reviewed the footage, she realized none of what she had seen was in the recordings. Just hours of fog and empty landscapes. Shaken yet still resolved to understand what she had experienced, Eleanor turned to the diary for answers. In it, she found the last entry Arthur Grayson ever wrote. He described the same hollow-eyed townsfolk and how something beneath the village was consuming it, drawing it into another realm entirely. The last line of his entry chilled her to the bone. Once you've seen Ravendale, it never lets you leave. Eleanor felt a chill run down her spine as she noticed the faint outline of the Ravendale signpost, now etched into the skin of her forearm, like a brand. No matter how much she scrubbed, it wouldn't fade. Weeks turned into months, and Eleanor started noticing strange occurrences, shadows moving in the corner of her vision. The faint echo of laughter when she was alone, and an unshakable urge to return to that cursed clearing. Her friends begged her to let it go, but deep inside, Eleanor knew that Ravendale hadn't just erased itself from maps and memories. It had marked her, and it was calling her back. One stormy night, Eleanor's resolve broke. She packed her belongings, grabbed the diary, and left a note for her loved ones, simply saying, "I must go back." To this day, no one knows what happened to Eleanor. Her car was found abandoned near the ruins of Ravendale, her belongings untouched. The villagers from the nearby towns swear they hear laughter and music on stormy nights, but none of them dare to venture close to find out. Ravendale isn't on any map, but it's there, waiting for the curious, the brave, or the foolish. And now you know the story of the forgotten village beneath. But let this be a warning. Some places are meant to stay forgotten. And if you ever find yourself near an old, half-buried sign that reads, "Welcome to Ravendale," do yourself a favor. Turn around. Don't look back. Because once you've seen Ravendale, it never lets you leave.